I am honored to have Phil Keilen, of Coastal Samaritan, Executive Director of Coastal Samaritan Center, who will be speaking on the topic of the role mental health plays in a successful business. Phil, thank you.
Thank you.
Please go to the class.
I'll take up the collection now because you may leave quickly. How are you doing, everybody? Hey, can you hear me okay?
You can.
Okay. As Dennis pointed out, the topic today is mental health, the role mental health plays in a successful business. That means mental health has to be successful in order for the successful business to take place. I looked up the definition of business, and it's a person's regular occupation. So it could be anything. People are entrepreneurs, they own businesses, they work for people, they work at colleges, they work at churches, they work at hospitals, etc. But my concentration today with you is based on the person. And I'm going to give you some background on how we do our therapy as we walk into what a business faces on a day-to-day basis in dealing with their employees, in dealing with the employees' families, in dealing with their stockholders, in dealing with their board members, in dealing with anybody that comes into contact, but primarily dealing with themselves, okay? So it's an individual that we want to talk about. A little bit about my background, and this plays into the presentation. I have a BA in philosophy from St. Francis University in Western Pennsylvania. I'm an Army veteran during the 60s. I was a university administrator as a development director and alumni director for St. Francis University. Senior director for a nonprofit agency that had 300 employees and a $15 million budget. That was thrilling, 300 employees. Real estate and insurance background for about 20 years. That's where I learned all my selling tools. And now a nonprofit employee, consultant, and volunteer. I have worked on every level that a person can work with in a nonprofit. I'm just telling you all this, not to toot my horn, but this is where I learned about people on a steady day-to-day basis over the last 55 years. Now, I know I don't look my age, right?
Right.
But I have about 55 years of experience, and I'm going to bring that to the table today. I am not a therapist. I'm a business person. My whole background has been in business. Administration, sales, development, marketing, publications, but I'm not a therapist. But I have listened to a lot of employees over that period of time who needed a therapist, okay? Now the areas for discussion today is understanding the whole person, mind, body, soul, and community. That's our basis of our mission. We do holistic therapy. We deal with the mind, body, soul, and community. Now people say, well, do you promote a particular religious belief? No, we don't. We just say, if you want to have your personal belief system, your spiritual system come into the therapy, we'll work that into the therapy. But if you don't want it into the therapy, okay, then we'll leave it out until you say it's okay. And we'll just deal with the body, the mind, and community. Mental health and productivity. Now this is big for businesses, productivity. That comes in many different disguises, how you identify and how you promote productivity inside your business. What are the red flags of pending adverse mental health events in your business? The average worker spends about 8 hours or more at their business. So the chances of a mental health event taking place for an individual is 1/3 of their daily activity. The other 2/3 are spent either sleeping or interacting with the community or interacting with their family. Does your business have a positive mental health environment? We're going to discuss about what a business can do to create a positive mental health environment and make mental health a benefit for your business. Now, I know if there's a lot of business people listening to this, seeing this, they'll say, cannot afford it. I'm not asking you to spend anything. I'm asking you to create an environment where you have positive mental health events going on for your client, for your employees. Now, it's in understanding the whole person, mind, body, soul, and community, that we discover what we have to do in therapy. Now, the primary talent of a therapist is listening, okay? Not making decisions for the client. The client has to come to their own conclusion on what has to be changed in their inner self. So the mind has to be fed positive thoughts. I listen to kids, I listen to teenagers. I have 2 sons, 2 stepchildren, 11 grandkids, and 3 great-grandkids. And whenever I hear any of them, except the little ones, because they don't understand yet, doing negative self-talk, I tell them they got to stop it. Because what happens is our mind functions similar to how we modernized the computer. What you put in will come out in a conclusion. So if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. If you put negative thoughts in your daily self-talk about, oh, I can't do this, I don't want to do this is too difficult for me. Well, guess what? The subconscious is going to create the scenario to make that happen. But if you say, I can do it, I will do it, I want to do it, then the subconscious works on that in a positive way to come up with solutions, creative solutions, things that you may not have thought of prior to getting into a situation. So the mind plays a critical role. The mind also, the brain, also plays a very critical role in the advancement of therapy. And I won't get into it too deeply because I'm not an expert, but there is a blood-brain barrier that seems to affect people's emotions. And when that barrier breaks down or has problems, then the emotions are triggered in the brain that they could become depressed, they could become violent. So when a person comes to an assessment of their problem, one of the things they're recommending for people who have serious mental issues is to get a brand new type of brain blood barrier scan. And that will tell where the weak spots are in the barrier. And when the barrier has that weak spot, it's affecting something in the brain. Okay, very advanced. Now we go into the body. Once again, what you put in will come out. If you eat healthy, if you eat properly, if you eat within reason, okay, you exercise, then you're going to have a healthy body. You're going to have a healthy day-to-day existence. But if you eat a lot of sugar, if you drink a lot of alcohol, drink a lot of wine, okay, use drugs, pills, right, your body is going to react adversely to that. Now, that sends a lot of messages to the brain. When your body is acting up, it's out of sync. The common way to understand when somebody is in trouble, they will say the code phrase, I'm out of balance. When they say I'm out of balance, that means something's going on in their mind or something is going on in the body. And they need to balance that. Now the next part is the wisdom for the soul. This is where spirituality comes into. This is where any religion plays an important role. This is where we're finding that our core value system exists. It's intangible. We can't touch it. A doctor can touch our brain, can touch our skull. Okay, we can touch food. We know what the apple will do versus what the alcohol will do. We can see it, we can feel it, we can smell it. But our spirituality is intangible. And it's the driving force in who we are. And that's why we promote the holistic approach. Now, when an individual has all three of the top in working in coordination, okay, and they go out into the community, they become part of the foundation of the community because they're bringing into the community a healthy person, a balanced person. Now that community could be your church, your synagogue, it could be your school, your place of work, it could be your golf club, your bridge club, but whatever you are, you bring into the community, whether it's one other person you're dealing with or 100 other people. And you become the foundation for that. So we take this understanding here and we put it into business. Everything I said about the brain, the body, and the soul applies to the individual who walks through your door as an employer. Because now they're walking into a bigger community. Now, granted, somebody will say, I'm only out tomorrow, and I only have one employee, okay? But you could also be walking into 300 employees and become part of that community. So when you come in there, you want healthy people to come in. Because out of that group of people that are servicing your mission as a business person, okay, will determine your productivity and your profits, your expenses, and your environment and your place of business. So we go from the individual, understanding what an individual, and just multiply that by 10, by 100, by 200, by 300. And the more people you get together inside an organization, the more dynamic that organization becomes. So wouldn't you want to have the majority of those individuals, okay, balanced, saying positive mental images sent to the brain, healthy, balanced, okay, and have some type of core value system that aligns with your core value system as a business. We cannot exist, in my opinion, without a core value system. And we're seeing it disintegrate before our very eyes right now, across the world and across the country, in our educational system. And it's reaching way down from the universities, and it's reaching way down into elementary. So that's what we are talking about when we talk about understanding the whole person. Mental health and productivity. Well, what are the red flags of a pending adverse mental health event in your business? Well, when you hire somebody, you normally don't think about this. You're thinking about what that new employee can do for your business, how that new employee is going to get orientated, how they're going to mix with the other people in the business, how they're going to increase your productivity. And when increasing your productivity, you increase your profit. When productivity goes down, profit goes down, expenses go up. So somebody comes into your place of business as a new employee, and they bring in with them, without you knowing it, a bad environment at home. There might be a divorce going on. There might be a sick child at home. There might be a special needs child in that home. That creates a lot of stress. And they're bringing that person and all that stress from those events in their private life into your workplace. Okay? Back in Jersey, when I was selling insurance, I got involved with a nonprofit organization called Caregivers. And Caregivers was an organization, mostly seniors, that took care of homebound seniors who couldn't get out. And they would take them to the doctor, and they would do grocery shopping for them. We had 1,000 volunteers, and we had 2,400 people we took care of as a nonprofit for free. We didn't charge anything. We would go into businesses and ask them for their financial help to carry on this mission. And they couldn't understand why they had a responsibility in this. And I would sit down with them and say, see that water cooler over there? You're going to have 1, 2, or 3 employees gather around it today. And whatever they talk about, you're going to be affected by it. I said, trust me, those 3 employees that are going to gather around that water cooler is not going to talk about increased production. They're going to talk about what's bothering them at home, what's bothering them in their other communities. And they're going to stand there and talk about this maybe what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, times 3. And you're paying for those minutes times 3. You got to find out what they're talking about by paying more attention to the problems of the employee. So if you have an employee who is of the sandwich generation, they have their kids at home, they have their parents at home, and they're working, they're in the middle of that sandwich. They're bringing those problems, that stress, those fears to the other employees at the water cooler. I said, we can take care of that for you. We can help you with that by saying, if you find out that you got an employee who has parents that have to be taken care of and they're asking for time off to do that, call us up. Let us find out what we can do for you as volunteers. Visiting the parent, taking the parent to a doctor, doing the grocery shopping, to free up the employee to do what the employee wants to do during that period of time. Okay? And that became a very effective presentation to them. So other red flags of pending adverse medical events. Every now and then, unfortunately more often than now and then, we'll have a parent come through our agency and they'll have a child that's in trouble. They're on drugs, they're on some type of heroin, they're on some type of pills, they're missing school, they're not going to school, and the parent is totally stressed out over this. That parent is trying to work, and we'll hear the parent say, I'm trying to go to work and pay attention to my work, but I'm thinking about what my son or my daughter is doing to destroy their life. That's a mental event waiting to happen. Okay? So we have stress versus pressure. Stress is the adverse reaction people have to excessive pressures or other types of demands placed upon them. There is a clear distinction between pressure, which can be a motivating factor, and stress, which can occur when the pressure becomes excessive. Now, I was in sales for a long time. And Jason, are you in sales?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Consulting sales?
Yeah.
You have production goals of
100%.
100%, right? That's pressure, that's motivation. Because if Jason reaches his goals, then there's a reward at the end of the day. But if Jason doesn't reach his goals and misses them by 5% or 10%, I know, because I've experienced this myself, come into my office, I want to talk to you. I want to find out why you didn't do that, why you didn't get to that goal, okay? And you say, well, my wife was sick, and I had to take a couple of days off to take care of her. My child, new baby, stays up all night. I can't get any sleep. The employer's side of the coin doesn't really care at that moment. All they care about is Jason didn't reach 100% of his goal for this quarter. Now all of a sudden, that pressure to reach a goal turns into stress, because next quarter he's got a deficit from the first quarter, that's rolled into the second quarter, and then on top of that, he's got to make up the first quarter and make up and achieve the second quarter. Now that pressure, okay, is turning into stress, and a lot of people don't even know it. Real estate people go through this all the time, all the time. When I was in real estate, I had what they call a chain of sales, which I don't wish on my worst enemy. I listed a house, and I had a buyer for it. The person who owned the house that I was listing went and bought a house in another state. That house had to be sold. So the person in the other state had to sell the house and find the house. All of a sudden, this became a chain. I was at the bottom of the chain with the buyer. Every day, almost every other hour, did that house get sold yet? I had no idea what the house looked like. I didn't know what town it was in. All I can say no, because our lister, our seller, was not moving out yet. And I can't tell you when. Now, the pressure of making the sale was taken care of, but the pressure of closing the sale became stress. And every day I had that stress I had to contend with. Well, good producers, high producing people, multiply that by 10 or 15 or 20 at a time. They got a lot of activity going on. So that's how pressure can turn into stress. Anybody got an example in their own life they want to share? Jason, you see
Oh,
this?
for sure, yeah, so it's like, hey, sometimes you never know where next month's coming from, right?
Full commission.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit.
So, I think it's really good. You know, it's harder in the beginning, but I think it's really good to build into someone better. But it's definitely stressful.
Yep.
That's for sure.
Well, I worked on full commission for too many years. My wife, at the same time, was working on full commission. And after 10 years of that pressure and stress, we looked at each other and said, we're nuts. We can't have both of us on full commission. No salary. Okay. Had mortgages, had kids, had electricity to pay, had food to buy, had car payments. So I went into nonprofit work. She stayed in sales. Okay. And that turned down the stress a great deal, and that steady income was coming in. So that happens every day. Every day. You could have 100 people in this room, and you would probably find 50% of them or more are having financial stress. Because if they don't make the sale, if they don't close it, and they don't close it on time, they don't get paid. Now, the mortgage company doesn't care that you didn't get paid. The leasing company on the car does not care you didn't get paid. All they care about is you fulfill your obligation to them to send that check in and let them cash it and let them achieve their production goals. Okay? So that's why the person is such an integral part of a business, whether you're self-employed or employed by a company. All right? The balanced person is critical. Now, the therapist in our agency will, when a person comes in and has these problems, the first thing they do is listen. 50 to 60% of therapy is listening well and paying attention to the client. And once that assessment is taken care of in the first session, then a plan of action, therapy plan, is designed to present it to the client at the second or third session. Now, once the client agrees to the plan of action that the therapist is suggesting, they have a chance to modify it, accept it, or not do it. But once they accept it, all right, then every week that that person comes back, the plan of action becomes the lodestone, becomes the keystone of that therapy. How are you doing? you said that 2 weeks ago that you were going to change your diet. How's the diet coming? Have you had any sugar cookies in the past week? Okay. You have, honestly. She's eating them right now, you know. Have you had any ice cream? Okay. Have you lost any weight? But on a plan, you said that you were going to, you wanted to change your diet. That's coming from the client. So the client has got to want to do a change. So therapy is not effective until the inner turmoil is changed to understanding what the client needs to change internally. Okay. So you could have the Rock doing the therapy to a person who has obesity problems, but the Rock is not going to change that person to change their eating habits. It can motivate, encourage, okay, but the person has to look deep inside of themselves and find out what's causing them to do the stress that's turning into anxiety or depression, overweight, sleepless nights, etc. Okay, you gotta go.
Thank you, I have to.
That's a $50 fine.
Okay, please don't dock me.
I want you to give it to
I'm on the board with Mr.
Dennis. I
Keilen.
want you to give it to Dennis.
Yeah, okay. It's a pleasure meeting all of you, and I want to wish you the very best of luck and success in your businesses.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Vince.
Now, let's look at this picture.
Thank you, Dennis.
There's pressure here and there's stress here. Now, this woman seems to be working out of her home, which is a big deal today, okay? She's got her computer. She's got a computer with calculus in it, but she has a handheld calculus too. She's got a clipboard. Oh, I wonder what kind of work she does, because she's got a dog, stuffed dog, and she's got Crayolas. She's got a little train over there in the corner. Got a horse in the back, and they got toys on the floor. Okay? That's stress. That's stress. Because somebody's going to walk through with tiny feet, that big voice, and say, "Mommy, I want you to play with me." And she's trying to figure out how to get the numbers off of that calculus into her computer to make a proposal to sell a house to an individual she just met on the web. That happens every day. We don't have a tendency to look at this as simply as I'm presenting it. But this is where it starts. This is the foundation. Okay? Now this young lady looks really stressed out. Okay? She looks tired. She looks emaciated. I don't think I would want to be her husband and come home to that scenario, because that husband better be good, better be coming in pressure-free, okay? Now she's going to go out into her community. She may be going out into her church community. She may be going to the daycare center. She may be going to the PTA program. She may be going to visit her sick mother, her father who has dementia. She's going to take all of this that she's going through now and go out into the community with it and face her parents and say, "Mom, Dad's going to be okay," knowing that Dad's not going to be okay. And Dad doesn't even recognize her anymore. Now, that happens more than not in today's society. Dementia, Alzheimer's is one of our biggest problems. Now let's look at this. Guy on the left, he's got a very busy shop going on. And his problem is, where is it? Maybe he has organizational problems, okay? And he's got stuff all over the place, and he's looking for it to fill that invoice or order. Now, the ideal situation is on the other side. The ideal workplace is, we got a nice clean desk, we got a good bulletin board with minimal stuff on it, We got lighting, we got a big clock, we got a flower in the background, and we got two people property space from each other in the office, and their desks are clean, and they're both drinking coffee or some type of drink. Now that's what we dream about when we go in. But does that happen? What happens more is this fellow over here walks in the front door and he says, I don't know where that odor is. It should have been in yesterday. I think it came in, but it didn't come in. Now the pressure is starting to build up and it's starting to turn into stress. But these two over here have a better chance of just staying with the pressure to meet their goals, to do their productivity for their employer, for their schoolwork, or whatever they're doing. So in addition to poor mental health, which could be anxiety, stress, depression, suicidal ideations, that you start thinking about harming yourself. It can also lead to burnout amongst employees, seriously affecting their ability to contribute meaningfully in both their personal and professional lives. Now, if you're dealing with one employee, that may not have a big impact. But if you start multiplying that problem inside of an employee population, you got a big problem on your hands. Okay? Because that person is going to stop or diminish their production for you, whatever that is. In addition, poor mental health can also lead to burnout amongst employees, which we just said, seriously affecting their ability to contribute meaningfully in both their personal lives and their professional lives. This is who we deal with. This is like a simple description of who we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. I call our agency the general practitioner of mental health. We deal with all the stress, anxiety, and depression that people have. And if they come to us with a more severe problem, then we have to refer them out to a psychiatrist. We do not prescribe medication. Okay? So we just don't know until we go through those first 2 or 3 sessions with the client and find out the assessment, find out what their problems are. Now somehow, we got to fit transferable principles from therapy into you, the employer. See how we do that. Work-related stress can also manifest as heart disease, back pain, headaches, and gastrointestinal disturbances, or various minor illnesses, as well as psychological effects, such as anxiety and depression, loss of concentration, and poor decision-making. Let's take the top part. Heart disease, back pain, headaches, etc. Okay. That's going to slow down an individual's ability to perform for the employer. Now, all you have to do is look in the middle drawer of the desk, find out how many Tylenols are in there, how many Advils are in there, or other types of painkiller. You got a problem on your hands waiting to happen. Minor illnesses such as anxiety and depression, loss of concentration, and poor decision-making. Now, the line in red up top leads to the line in red down at the bottom. Okay. They interact with each other. They flow negatively within each other. Why does the employer have to pay attention to this? Because if the employer is paying workers' comp premiums, this is the heart of the problem for workers' comp. An accident could happen, getting hurt on the job, making a poor decision on a job, climbing up a ladder and not paying attention where you're going, driving to and fro from the employer to the post office, not paying attention when you drive because your back hurts, you got a headache. You're so stressed out, the stress is now turned into anxiety. And the anxiety is now ready to turn into depression. So the employer has to be aware that all this is a risk management event that could happen in their business. Increasingly being recognized that employees' mental health is crucial detriment to their overall health or mental health, and stressors at the workplace can be a contributory factor to the range of physical illness like hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular conditions, amongst others. So yet first, the previous slide, this flowed into this slide. This is what is hidden from the employer until it comes out, and then they have to react to it. Mental health problems have an impact on employers and businesses directly through increased absenteeism, negative impact on productivity and profits, as well as an increase in cost to deal with the issue. In addition, the impact on employee morale adversely. Absenteeism is a cost factor. If you're paying somebody X amount of dollars per hour or per week, and you expect them to be there to do a certain amount of production, and they don't show up to work, okay, you're out to lunch. You lost that production. But you've put money into the employee. Training, okay, orientation, motivation, equipment. You may provide, for example, we provide the space, we provide computers, we provide training, okay, education. So the therapist doesn't have to worry about any of the administrative part of the business. We do that. So we're starting to see now therapists who went into their homes during COVID are getting tired of having to do all the administrative part of the job as well as the therapy part of the job. And they're starting to come out looking for an agency like ours. Okay. So if you know of anybody that says that to you, send them to us. We need LPCs and social workers for the pitch for us. All this is money. Work-related stress is a major cause of occupational ill health, poor productivity, and human error. This means increased sickness, absence, high staff turnover, and poor performance in an organization, and possible increase in accidents due to human error. We got a lot of things going on in this slide behind the scenes. We got workers' comp. You got somebody who you hired, put them on a 90-day probation, and they didn't tell you that they had to go into the hospital for a major operation that they knew about prior to coming for the job. And that person then has to take a leave, and you've got an open vacancy there to fill. You hire another person. The cost of retraining a person for a job is high. We had a turnover at the large nonprofit that I worked at in New Jersey with the 300 employees. I was in their development department, and they had a meeting every month with the senior directors. And the finance director came in and said, she did a study, we have a 30% loss in employees. And it's costing us $15,000 per employee to replace that 30%. That's pressure. I'm sitting at the table, to mind my own business because I was a fundraiser, and they all looked at me and said, Philip, what are you going to do about it? I can't raise money that quick to offset that backdoor exit. We have to do something with the recruiting process. We have to sit down with our HR people, and we have to find out what is happening in that first 90 days that is causing this retention problem. And we sat down and we started working with the other directors, the coordinators in the building, the managers in the building, and at the end of 6 months, we had reduced that 30% down to 15%, just by paying attention to the problem. Now, if that finance person hadn't put it on the table in dark black and white green dollars, okay? You just blissfully slided right by it. But that's what happens. And it's all contained in this slide here. So lost time, lost money. Okay? So absenteeism costs you. Now, it really costs the individual who's an entrepreneur and working at full commission. No pun intended on this. But they have to realize when they're not working, they're unemployed. That's why you have a pending file. And when somebody says no to you today, you have to ask them, would you have any objection if I called you back in 3 weeks or 3 months? That's your future work. If you don't ask that question and get the desired no that you want, okay, in 3 weeks or 3 months down the road, you don't know what to do because you're demoralized, you're stressed out, because you haven't filled your pipeline. Pipeline is very big in sales. You got to keep that pipeline jammed with prospects coming through it. Some are going to drop off, some are going to become sales, and some are going to stay in there. And you forget about them very easily. Oh, I had 10 sales this week, I don't worry about my pipeline. And then the next 2 weeks you get nothing. So you got to go into that pipeline and pull that out. If you don't, then you're going to take that pressure of that pipeline and turn it into stress, and I'll be seeing you walk through our front door. Because you're going to need to talk to somebody about that and how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. Because your inner self is all jacked up, is all out of sorts, is all out of balance. And a simple conversation and a listening program with a skilled therapist can get you back on track. So the bridge to successful business operation is to limit the relationship problems with superiors, whatever they might be. Go across that bridge and to get to where you're working as a team. That's where success lies in an organization, as a team. Now that's not easy. It's easy to say everybody should be a team member, but it's very hard to make that happen. Okay? But that's the bridge you got to cross. And you notice it has no railings, no rails, okay, no guardrails. So does your business have a positive mental health environment? You have to ask that yourself, your question. Is the business that I'm running as an employer have a positive mental health environment? Do you make mental health a benefit for your business? Let's take a look at that. So a successful business will be made up of teamwork, support, trust, motivation, success, and inspiration. They're all intangible concepts that you can't pick up and say, oh, here's a bucket of success, here's a bucket of trust, here's a package of inspiration. But this is what an employer who's managing other people have to do. They got to take care of their employees. So they have to be balanced themselves. So they take a look out into their employee population and say, Joe over there has missed 4 days out of 6. I wonder what's going on. And walk over and find Joe and say, Joe, let's sit down and talk about this. What's going on? You got something going on in your life that's causing you to miss work? Because this has got to be causing you a lot of stress. And Joe, if the employer is a good listener, and if the employer presents it in a meaningful, mature way, the employee may open up and say, well, this is this, and this is happening at home. Now what does the employer do? I've worked with employers who have taken that scenario and said, we can help you. We can put you in touch with a doctor. We can put you in touch with a good car mechanic. We can put you in touch with a great financial advisor. We can put you in touch with whatever you need, because we care for you, because you're part of our team. And if we don't do this for you, then we're doing you an injustice. That's a mental health benefit that an employer can give just by how they react to all the problems that I just described for you. So, got compensation for the employee, salary satisfaction, compensation system, promotion, fairness, evaluation system, benefits, time off, holidays, insurance, satisfaction with the system, retirement. The employee is looking for a lot of stuff. It's not easy, okay? Career, ability and choice to progress and develop, stability, training and education, career development, college education, consultation, evaluation, work environment, recognition, autonomy, personal achievements, work-life balance, that's a big one. Challenges, understanding of one's role and responsibility. The work environment is so critical. It's so critical to a healthy mental environment. The culture, understanding the firm's goals and plans, colleagues, leaders and managers, support, collaboration and team spirit, and social responsibility trust. All these things are going on simultaneously in a person's life and they don't even know it. But one day they wake up and say, I haven't been promoted for a while. Why is that happening? Okay. What's wrong? What's wrong with this company? I should be at the top of the heap by now. I've been here 3 days. Why am I not running it? Okay. But the work environment, recognition, autonomy, I firmly believe as a manager of people, my job, and this has always been my philosophy, my job is to let the people do their work and then create an environment between that employee and myself that if you run into trouble or an obstacle, come to me and I'll help solve it. But this is your work. I want you to take ownership of this work. If you don't do it right, we will talk about the process that you used, not that you did something wrong. Now, I had a group of 9 people, and we were in development. We had to do special events, we had to do annual reports, we had to do newsletters, etc., all this stuff. We'd go to a staff meeting. I knew what I wanted. And I would say, look, let's consider this. And let's go around the table and have everybody contribute to this idea. And if somebody doesn't contribute, we're going to stop right there until that person does. They finally got used to it. We came up with some great stuff. But by the time it got back to me, it wasn't what I originally put on the table, but I got what I wanted. I got a program, an idea, a concept that people came together and formed that mythical team on that one particular job, okay? That's environment. So, how can we help? We do video and in-person sessions with therapy. We can do it all over the state with video. There's a program out there with the state legislature would get on their stick, which would allow us to cross state boundaries and do it in 10 other states in a coalition without going through a lot of licensing problems. Custom design educational sessions. There's enough in this slide presentation to say, hey, I would like to have somebody come in and talk about the environment and how people can contribute to a positive mental health environment. Could be a half an hour, could be 15 minutes, could be a staff meeting, whatever it is. Crisis intervention. I had a phone call the other day from a property management headquarters. Said that at one of their locations, somebody had jumped out the window and killed themselves. And would I call the manager of that site to see how they're doing? I said, not only will we see how we're doing, we'll offer to come over at a moment's notice with no charge. crisis intervention. I got a hold of the manager of that facility. I told him what we can do. He told me to call him. And he said, I'll call you back tomorrow. I want to present to the staff. The staff didn't want us to come in, which is not unusual. It's the stigma of mental health. We're okay, we're tough, we can handle people jumping out of buildings and getting killed. We're tough, okay? They're not tough. So I waited a week, and I called him back, and I said, I'm going to use a fictitious name. Joe, I'm just calling to see how you are doing, because you're at the head of the totem pole. This must have been a lot of strain and pressure on you. He says, well, I'm doing okay, but I'm really thankful that you thought of me. That's what we're here for. And if you need us, we'll always be here for you. So that's managing our clientele. That's crisis intervention. We belong to a crisis intervention group of therapists across the county. So that when somebody, a bank calls up, a hotel system calls up, a food store calls up and says, we just had a robbery, or we just had a death, can you send somebody over right away? It may not necessarily be one of our therapists, but we're part of a group that meets every month, and we can find somebody who's free to go right away. It's like an emergency reaction system. Communication and leadership training, this is big. And assigned professional therapists. It's my hope to be able to work with businesses in a local area to say to them, if we can create a partnership that we both agree with, we'll assign a therapist to your organization. And every quarter, that therapist will call up the individual that you have designated to be the liaison, just to see how things are going. The therapist will also be willing to do a training on what you need to be trained on. And you tell us what that topic is, give the therapist some time to put it together, and we'll come over and do it. But we want you to know that we believe so much in mental health, positive environment in businesses, that we'll assign a therapist to your business for you to call and say, I need somebody to come over and talk to my staff and leadership. I communication skills are big problem. Okay? Conflict resolution, big problem. That's what we want to do. So, we want to help. And all you have to do is give us a call. 843-448-4820. Ask for me, or whoever answers the phone, get a hold of me, and we'll talk. We'll listen, and we will create solutions. I want to thank you very much, Dennis, for letting me do this.